Sasha with Lotus Guide.
Hi there. How you doing?
Very good. So you're in England,
Good. I'm in England.
Wow.
Where are you?
Or Northern California.
Oh my goodness. Is this going to be live or are we taping?
No, we're taping right now, and we'll turn this into an article for our magazine.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay.
All right. So there's obviously several ways we could do this. We could go ahead and just talk a little bit, but I do have some specific questions.
Any way you'd like to do it is fine by me.
Well, how about starting with, I think I've targeted my questions pretty good for what you're doing too. And we also have all the general information for the intention experiment. So I already,
Yep.
which I think is a really great idea, by the way.
Oh, thanks so much. We're really excited about it. We've got thousands of people already signed up to do it.
Yeah, it's terrific. It's the first time on this planet where we've been able to do this using the internet.
I know. Well, this is the great thing. Technology can be used to send out some common good, I think.
Yeah, and there's something about validation too. Once something's once something's validated in somebody's mind, then they can take the next step.
Exactly. I think that's what really is important to people.
Okay, here's the first question. It seems as though the science of conscious exploration includes a lot of neuroscientists. Why do you think this is so?
The science of consciousness includes a lot of neuroscientists.
Right.
Well, I think scientists, it does and it doesn't. I mean, there are many scientists who are biologists and physicists. I would say in the main it's physicists who have been tapping into a lot of this. And biologists, psychologists are all looking at how we know what we know, and how we know that we know, how that we are conscious and sentient beings. I mean, neuroscientists now are looking at what happens to the brain when we perceive certain things, and they now have the equipment to measure what goes on in the brain, and so they've been a really interesting and important resource for this kind of information.
Right. Yeah, especially with the new technology being able to do brain scans and all.
Exactly. We can see what happens. For instance, there's a story in my book about what is going on when people are hypnotized and they're told something about reality that isn't true. In this case, they were shown pictures of like Mondrian paintings. You know, those primary colored grid type paintings. You know, they've got lots of colors in them.
Right.
And they were told that these pictures didn't have colors. They were black and white. And they actually could measure with their brains the receptors for color draining away and the receptors for black and white, picking up. And so they were actually able to measure the effect of planting this conscious intention in their mind that was actually contrary to what was really the case.
Yeah, I remember reading in the Holographic Universe, there was a section in there about a guy that he was a hypnotist, and he hypnotized his father and told him, when you see your daughter, you will not see her. When I wake you up, you will not see her. And he could not only not see his daughter, he could actually see through his daughter to the hand of the hypnotist. So it makes you realize that somewhere in our mind, we have the ability to actually phase out the three-dimensional objects to some degree. It's amazing what our minds can do.
It's quite amazing, isn't it? Really amazing.
Somebody asked me the other day, they said, what do you find most amazing about life? And I said, well, life itself is amazing, but what I really find amazing is that everybody isn't walking around amazed.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, that's really amazing. Okay, next question. How long do you have? How much time?
It's fine. I mean, we can go through your questions. Don't worry about it.
Alrighty. How do you think something like the intention experiment could affect people's beliefs about what is reality?
Well, I think this is probably going to forever change their view of reality in the sense that we're testing whether first of all, we're testing whether mind can influence matter. And we're choosing targets that go against the natural order, so to speak, of modern classical science. We're choosing targets where, say we have our little mini Gaia that we're planning as our first experiment, in that case, we're planning to artificially raise the temperature and send intentions to lower that temperature. And if this is successful, it will demonstrate that the ability of mind to affect a physical process that we didn't think was effectable in this manner, And also, we were going to be testing whether or not lots of minds thinking the same thing at the same time have an even bigger effect. And so I think if we are able to show that loads of minds around the world sending the same thought at the same time have a powerful effect, it can actually change temperature. First of all, it has huge ramifications and implications for global warming, that we can tackle it with our thoughts. And also, it shows that that the ability of the mind has an effect on physical reality, and that group mind also has an effect. So I think that is going to upend pretty much everything, all of reality as we know it, because our take on reality now, of the sticks and stones reality that we know, is that everything exists as a discrete and finalized assemblage, and that we are separate. Things are separate, and they're not affected by other things unless we throw them or give them a push or heat them or burn them.
Yeah, I think one of the most difficult things for us to grasp, and no matter how many times I say this, I know I'm not getting it, but everything out there is actually in me.
Exactly. Well, I think the easiest way of thinking about it, because that's a hard concept to think out there and in me. Maybe an easy way to think of it is that we're just all connected, and that we're all part of something bigger, and that bigger is this giant energy field, the zero-point field that connects everything like an invisible web. And so if we think of it that way, we can see that we're just, a little part of a whole.
Right. Well, okay, another question. I think I got this from your book, actually, or at least a piece of this. The Dalai Lama.
Okay.
The Dalai Lama brought something up a few years ago when he asked if changing our thoughts and beliefs could physiologically change the physical structure of our brains. I think there's enough evidence now indicating that we do. What do you think?
Definitely.
What do you think the implications of this are in regard to our consciousness?
Well, I mean, it just demonstrates that the brain is, and the mind is the hand servant of our thoughts, and that, I mean, it was true that Dalai Lama was right, and it was also some of his disciples who were tested. They were tested by University of Wisconsin's Richard Davidson, who looked at the experienced meditators to see if anything was different about their brains, and he found that over time their brains were lighting up the happiness portion of their brain, and their structure of their brain had become larger according to other studies, and this demonstrates that in a sense, when we continue on with that very great focused attention, that we turn ourselves into a larger radio, a larger receiver or transmitter.
Right.
And the big implications of this, of course, are that we can become a bigger transmitter or receiver, which is, there's a lot of evidence demonstrating that we are transmitting and receiving little particles of light at every moment. They call them biophoton emissions, and that we can become, and that we are picking up this information from our environment all the time, and we can become a greater receiver and transmitter with this kind of focused attention.
Well, this is a good segue for the next question, then. It seems obvious to a lot of people on this planet that we are on the verge of taking a leap forward in our evolution in the area of spiritual consciousness. What are your thoughts on this?
I think that's very much true. I think scientists in this instance, scientists are leading us there in a sense. They're leading us to a final realization of what and a verification of what spiritual masters have known for centuries. That we are a lot more than we seem, that we are all part of a whole, that we have far greater extended potential than we make use of or we understand, and that we have the ability now to cast off this worldview, because, science tells us stories all the time. Science tells us stories, and we live by those stories because they are the nature of reality as presented to us by modern science. And for many centuries now, we've been told a Newtonian story, that things are separate, things are discrete, things are final as they are, and that we don't have any effect. We're just one more cog in that, we're just one more separate element there on this very lonely planet in this lonely universe. And this new evidence that quantum physics is giving us and that these frontier scientists are giving us demonstrates that all of that is wrong, and that we are much more connected, and that reality much more resembles the kind of description given to us by many native cultures or many Eastern cultures.
Yeah, it's amazing we've almost wiped some of them out.
Yes, exactly.
I'm curious, what would your thoughts be on this? Do you have any thoughts on the fact that it seems like when a person has a rigid belief, like a dogma-type belief, it almost seems like it inhibits their ability to even think about other three-dimensional things, let alone spiritual things. Do you think that it's actually possible to inadvertently set up a neural network that would inhibit spiritual consciousness by having rigid beliefs that are not based with anything that we experience in reality and are actually counterintuitive and counter-experiential?
I think it's possible to set up neural networks for just about everything, and I think that it would be possible if you are so convinced of something, you create, that becomes the truth for you. And we found that